Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia, at the Tony Townley Collection of about 100 vehicles, which will be sold in its entirety on October 24th and 25th by Richmond Auctions. Vehicles of all descriptions will be sold. Again, October 24th and 25th. One of the more unusual vehicles is this 1948 Diamond T pickup truck. Now, Diamond T was founded by Charles Tilt, a maker of shoes in Chicago, who then went into the manufacture of vehicles for the Army and for civilians. Now, this one here is, if it looks like custom, that's on purpose. These were very much Art Deco. The roof on these things, look, it's been chopped by a California customer, maybe George Barris, but this is factory stock stuff on these. A lot of really custom Art Deco touches on this. The swooping fenders, the teardropped headlight surrounds right here, the chrome around the front, kind of like a big locomotive on the freightways, and Diamond T right here, just a beautiful restoration. And again, heavy-duty suspension. This is like probably about a 1.5 ton, maybe a 2-ton frame, massive cast hubs on these things, 5-6 lug wheels that are detachable, front and rear. And again, just a great example. Now, this one has been constructed as a tow truck. And we can see at the back of this, we have a Weaver 3-ton auto crane. This puppy right here is what you would use to, disabled or crashed cars. You go out in this truck here and then retrieve them for repair. And again, we'll take a look at these items here in a second. These go with the vehicle, of course. It's ready to be used theoretically or displayed in a museum. That's more like it. But again, a great example of a restored, I should say, 1948 Diamond T tow truck for sale October 24th and or 25th from the Tony Townley Collection. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, 2025, Richmond Auctions will be conducting a sale of just about 100 special interest cars, including this 1950 Mercury two-door coupe. It's a pristine restoration. It's won many awards, including a Senior First Prize AACA award in 2014. Pristine, 100-point restoration, bone stock, no modification. The 255 flathead is under the hood, no aftermarket heads, no blowers, nothing like that. It's bone stock. The way it would have appeared in a Mercury dealership in 1949. Standard, the hubcaps here, optional fender flares on the back, or skirts, I should say. 3-speed manual with overdrive. Beautiful wide white tires, bias plies, as they should be. Again, it's a 100-point vehicle, and again, recognized by the AACA with a first place senior class award in 2014. It's a great car, bid strong. And of course, it's black, a beautiful car, midnight black. Great looking car, bid strong. Hi, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, 2025, Richmond Auctions will be selling a little over 100 collector cars, many of them at no reserve, including this here. This is something that nobody else has on earth. This is the 1951 Cadillac convertible that was used by Princess Elizabeth on her 36-day tour of Canada. She went from Ottawa, Quebec, Calgary, St. John's, and many other towns and cities in Canada in this car on her tour of Canada. And again, it's nicely restored, ready to drive and run. It's nicely, it's configured to drive pretty much every day, but it is a parade car. With that said, it has the Royal Ensign on the front, the flag there, which was used on the day of the parade. Also on the dashboard is a brass commemorative plaque that's engraved with the fact that this was used in that parade. Also, it comes with several 8x10 pictures showing the car in use on the parade. So you'll have no explaining to do. With that said, this is the only one of its kind on the planet. Again, it was used on a 36-day tour with Princess Elizabeth, and this is the parade car from that tour. Enjoy the car in your collection or at a social event. It's a great example. Again, it's ready to run and drive. And again, the roof on this car is a one-off. It's not from Cadillac. This is something that has a clear panel here, which was installed in case the tour encountered inclement weather, rain or anything like that. So the Princess could be seen while touring, but not get her hair wet. So bid strong. It's the only one of its kind. It belongs in your collection. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold by Richmond Auctions on October 24th and 25th, 2025 in its entirety. Something kind of cool in the auction is going to be this 1954 Dodge Power Wagon crew cab. You have to remember that Dodge didn't make crew cabs till 1962 for mass production, but a company called Stageway Armbruster made conversions like this one in Fort Smith, Arkansas, for people who needed something to haul workers out into the field, the prairie, the desert, wherever. And this is one of them. It's a verified on-booster stageway conversion. What they did is basically they stretched the roof of the cab about, I'd say 2.5, 3 feet like this to allow extra room for a back seat, 6-passenger capacity. The whole crew could fit in this thing, go out to work in the fields. Door on this side opens in the back. On the other side, the driver's side, there's only one door because the spare tire occupies the space that the door would be on. So that side of the cab is sealed on the left rear corner. But with that said, beautiful restoration of the breed right here. In order to make room for the extra length of the cab, the bed was shortened by a like amount, probably 2 feet right there. Once again, a very workable, functional truck. And again, this precedes the factory Power Wagons from Dodge by about 40 years. And with that said, it's a great example of how to go to work in style in a very rugged vehicle. The Power Wagon, of course, was Dodge's answer to vehicles from International and other companies who are building heavy-duty pickup trucks with four-wheel drive. But again, this is the first mass-produced Power Wagon four-wheel drive vehicle that was not aftermarket. So a very historic piece in so many ways. Bid accordingly. Hey, I'm Steve Mignonti here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, Richmond Auctions will be selling around 100 special interest cars. So it's going to be an amazing sale. One of the really cool vehicles in this batch is a 1954 Mercury Monterey convertible. Now, 54 was a big year for the Mercury line, the first year for the overhead valve 255 cubic inch V8 with push rods, replacing the flathead, which went all the way back to 1932 in Ford products and 39 in Mercury. But this one's a premium example of the breed. It's from the Milton Robson Collection. If you didn't know, Milton Robson is a discriminating collector. Things from his collection are top-notch. This one here is fully loaded, has power steering, power brakes, power top, of course, power windows, power seat, a very uncommon option, and even dual spotlights right here on both sides of the windshield. Beautiful example of the breed. Pristine restoration on this one here. And again, first year for the overhead valve V8. Let's take a peek at that motor right here under the front of the car. And there it is, correctly presented in the two-tone. The block itself is a dark green. The valve covers and the air cleaner, the oil bath air cleaner, are presented in a lighter shade of green. Just an appealing visual presentation and very correct, precise restoration. Exhaust manifolds are nicely detailed, and under the hood area is perfectly painted to match the way the car would have come off the assembly line way back in 1954. And again, a great example from the Milton Robson Collection. Best of the best. Bid strong. Hey, I'm Steve Mignonti here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, 2025, Richmond Auctions will be selling about 100 special interest vehicles, many of them at no reserve. One vehicle is kind of cool for Ford lovers. This 1955 Ford Customline two-door sedan. Now, Ford in 1955 restyled their cars. You had the mainline at the bottom, the Customline in the middle, and the Fairlane at the top. The Customline we see here has a little bit extra glitzer and chrome trim, etc., versus the low line mainline. So the Customline been customized. The total front suspension has been rebuilt with coil over front suspension and also tubular upper and lower control arms. Disc brake upgrade over the drums that it came with from the factory. Rear suspension, leaf springs gone in their place. Coilovers in a 4-link arrangement. All this done by JH Restorations of Canada. And nice to see the torque thrust wheels all the way around with some modern Cooper Cobra radial tires, and again a 347 cubic inch small block stroker with aluminum heads backed up by a 5-speed manual transmission with overdrive. Makes this a fun car on the highway or on the drag strip, wherever you might want to enjoy it. And the classy black and white two-tone paint really knocks this one out of the park. Inside has tuck and roll upholstery, power windows added, air conditioning added, and of course power steering and the power rack and steering. And just a great example of a street cruiser, kind of a resto mod for the 21st century with a toe in the 20th century back in 1955. So enjoy this one on a sunny day, and bid strong. It's a fun car for daily use. Hey, I'm Steve Mignonti here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th of 2025, around 100 specialty vehicles will be auctioned by Richmond Auctions in a 2-day rip, a big sale. A wide variety of vehicles, from Hemi-Cuda convertibles to things like this 1955 Willys M170, or actually a Willys I guess the correct pronunciation is Willys M170. It's a frontline ambulance. With that said, it's based on the M38 normal Jeep, but with an extra 20 inches of wheelbase to accommodate 3 stretchers in the back for rescuing folks on the battlefield who might need some service and some repairs by the medic. So you'd go get them with this puppy here, but it's every bit as strong as an M38 regular Jeep, 4-wheel drive, of course. Forged differential covers front and rear, blackout package here. This one has the F-head overhead valve and pushrod combination 4-banger, the Hurricane 4-cylinder motor, good engine. And inside we see the same canvas seats found on all other military Jeeps. And again, here's where the M170 has the longer wheelbase, the extension right here, to allow for 3 stretchers to be accommodated on the right side of the inside of the vehicle. 3-speed manual transmission, again, 4-wheel drive inside. The all-wheel 4-wheel drive is always engaged on these. You don't have to get out and lock them because they're always locked because you're on a battlefield. No time to get out and engage the hubs. So that's the example of what we have here. And this is also olive drab paint, which is standard fare on military vehicles in the United States. This was from 1955 during the Korean conflict, and a very special vehicle, correctly restored in every way. So bid strong. It's an unusual vehicle. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold on October 24th and 25th, 2025 by Richmond Auctions. Just about 105 vehicles of all descriptions will be sold during that 2-day auction event. Something really cool, this 1956 Chevy Bel Air convertible. Something cool about this one is it has the G-Code suffix 265 Power Pack dual quad small block under the hood. 3-speed manual on the column, which is the way these cars came. 4 speeds arrived in 1957, the year after, and full-size cars didn't get them until 1958, so interesting detail right there. But a beautifully restored car from the Milton Robson collection, and Milt, of course, is very selective. He's still with us, and this is from his collection, which speaks volumes about its correctness and the accuracy of the restoration. Has a lot of great dealer accessory items. These are the deluxe wire look wheel covers right here. It's a hubcap that goes on, but emulates the look of an actual wire wheel without the nuisance factor. Inside, of course, the beautifully rendered convertible top, crisp, very well rendered, no wrinkles. And inside, of course, 2-tone red and white upholstery, beautiful carpeting, AM radio. Manual steering, of course, manual drum brakes, that's fine. And again, the 3-speed on the column was the rule for these cars. And again, under the hood is something very special. Let's pop the hood and take a look at that Mighty Mouse, 1956, second year for the 265 V8. And there it is. This is basically the most potent small block Chevy you could get in 1956. Also put these in Corvettes, and of course the full-size cars like this one here. A couple of Carter WCFB 4-barrel carburetors right there on an aluminum intake manifold. Of course, this was Chevy's first aluminum intake on a V8 application, 1956, right here. Something also new for 1956 was the red paint used on the 265 V8 versus orange, which would be used in 1957 and onward. So again, 225 horsepower right here, which is about 25 more than the standard 4-barrel 265 engine, dual exhaust, of course, and just a nice restoration here. Everything very correctly presented. And of course, being a convertible, it rides on a frame with an extra X cross member to restore the rigidity to the body, because again, without a roof, these are more wobbly. But again, the convertible frame is specific to the convertible. We have it here, of course. Beautifully restored car, and again, it's from the Milton Robson collection, which speaks volumes to its correctness and desirability. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, Richmond Auctions will be holding a 2-day auction with about 100 special interest vehicles, many of them being sold at no reserve. This is a 1956 Ford Fairlane Victoria. The Victoria refers to the Ford hardtop body style without a B-pillar here, and the windows go all the way down. With the windows down, you get a full open-air experience with all the windows down. And again, the Victoria, pretty uncommon body style. And again, 1955 represented sort of facelift year for Ford. Wrapped around windshield, more of a flat roof versus the 1954, which more bulbous. So as Ford moved into the 1950s, lower, longer, wider was the theme, and Ford certainly embraced that with hooded headlights. And at the tail of the car, the beginnings of the tail fins, smaller tail fins that would eventually grow by 1957, 58 into much larger. But again, the tail fins were in their infancy, but again, represented here in 55 as Ford began to take on Chrysler and General Motors in their styling. And something we see on the front of this one here is this Thunderbird V8. This was born with the M-Code 272 four-barrel engine, which is the second year for the mighty Y-block pushrod engine, which arrived in 1954 as a 239. But by 1955, it went to 272 cubes, and this was born with one of those engines. This has the Ford-O-Matic automatic transmission, a good touch. Beautifully restored car. It's really a show-winning vehicle. Nice interior, all refurbished, and otherwise very stock. You know, the original hubcaps, wheel covers, and a spotlight, a dealer accessory spotlight right here, an uncommon touch right there. And again, a beautiful example of a Victoria 1955. And again, sales on these were pretty strong. This has AC added for more comfortable driving, modern air conditioning. And of course, the four-barrel carburetor on these things was a thing called the Teapot, made by Holley. Kind of problematic, so it's been replaced by a more modern four-barrel. But otherwise, it's ready to be driven and bid strong. It's a fun car. Hey, Steve Mignonte here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection of just about 100 special interest cars, which will all be sold in their entirety on October 24th and 25th by Richmond Auctions. This is something kind of cool here. This is a 1956 Lincoln Premier convertible, obviously. This one is fully loaded. Things it has in addition to the Lincoln V8 automatic transmission, power top, of course, power windows, front and rear, of course, and something kind of cool, of course, is these are dual spotlights on the right and left-hand side. These are dealer accessories, but cool to see this. There's also a mirror on this side for seeing out the back, but these are spotlights on both sides of the car, and they're fully adjustable and they're functional. Right there, kind of cool. And something kind of interesting, 1956 was the first year for Lincoln's, you might call it Batmobile styling. I'll get to that in a second. 55 was a much more conservative car, but for 1956, they have hooded headlights, emulating the look of the California customizers, which were a big deal back in the day, and of course more streamlined and longer, lower, wider as Lincoln entered the 1950s, the longer, lower, wider styling ethos. Tail fins would come a couple years after that. With that said, beautiful example of a restored version of the car. And this also has a Continental kit at the back, which is a fifth wheel, a spare tire externally mounted, and also has the Town & Country factory AM radio. So a lot to like in this car. Completely restored. The hood ornament with the golden warrior soldier fellow, he's up there on the front leading the way going down the road. The gold iridite here, the plating here, really well rendered, and a completely restored car. Beautiful example of the breed. 1956 Lincoln Premier convertible. Hey, Steve Mignonte here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, 2025, just over 100 special interest collector cars will be sold at auction by Richmond Auctions. Something special is this 1957 Buick Roadmaster. Now, we know it's a Buick Roadmaster, one of the top tier vehicles by its 4 Ventaports. Lesser Buicks, Centuries, and Specials would have 3 on the side, and they were called Ventaports. They grew out of the 1948, which had a circular motif, but they went more streamlined with each passing year. And speaking of streamlined, Buick was big on the 50s styling craze of wraparound windshields at the extreme right here on this 57 Roadmaster convertible. Up front, Wurlitzer jukebox styling, lots of chrome bullets here, massive chrome grille with vertical grills, teeth, call them what you will. Beautiful hood ornament right here, a gun sight hood ornaments, and under the hood we have Buick's famous nailhead V8, 364 cubic inches, probably about 210 horsepower, somewhere around there. Let's pop the hood and see what we can learn about it. And a beautiful restoration on this one here. And something interesting before I pop the hood, the model year 1957 appears on all 57 Buicks. So if you forget what year the car is, just look at the grille. There it is. And under the hood we have the mighty nailhead V8. This one fully loaded with power steering, power brakes, has a heater system, of course, no AC on this one, that's okay. Has a Dynaflow 2-speed automatic, 4-barrel carburetor, and properly rendered in matte finishes underneath. The firewall matches the body in ermine white. The motor is green as it should be, just crisply restored. Beautiful example of the breed. And again, being a convertible, this one has an X-frame underneath to restore rigidity to the body shell. Without the roof, that's not so good. Power windows inside this car, and something cool, this has the Wonder Bar signal-seeking AM radio, which means you hit the button and it finds the strongest signal and zeroes in on it. So it's signal-seeking in its first iteration here. And again, the Roadmaster truly was the master of the road. A beautiful example of the breed which will be sold on October 24th or 25th by Richmond Auctions. Bid accordingly. Hey, I'm Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, Richmond Auctions will be selling just over 100 specialty vehicles of many descriptions, with many of the cars with no reserve. One of the best I'm looking forward to is this 1957 Chevy Bel Air fuel injection convertible. Now, this car is a 5-year restoration recipient, and it's from the Milton Robson collection. And if you know Milton Robson's history, he doesn't mess with anything but the best. This is perhaps the best of its type on the planet. It's a 57 Fieldy, of course, 3-speed manual transmission. They weren't all automatics, and beautifully restored car. This was built very early in the production run in October of 1956, and as such, it has some pre-production parts. Let's look at those now. Pop the hood. Of course, you see the beautiful wide white tires, correct bias ply tires all the way around. And pop the hood. And there it is, the mighty Ramjet 283, the first American passenger car to exceed 1 horsepower per cubic inch. And when it comes down to these engines, there's 2 different air cleaners. There's one for the Corvette, which has a chrome element for the air cleaner, and the passenger car unit, which has more of a duct work on the side. But this one here has a very early fuel injection unit. This is apparently the 210th fuel injection unit installed by Chevrolet. So as such, it has some pre-production parts, which includes the Corvette style air cleaner, which is correct for this car, given that it's an early production car. And again, it's a California built car, again, October of 1956. It has the California front bumper, 1-piece bumper, whereas the cars from 48 states had 2-piece front bumpers, so 3-piece bumpers, I should say, and just nicely restored all the way around. Inside, of course, the 3-speed manual, nicely presented. The top is brand new, and again, 5-year restoration on this car. And only 68 Bel Air fuel injection convertibles were built in 1957. And this is perhaps the best of the breed. There are numerous trophies and awards in the trunk of the car that go with it, obviously. So it's been appraised by the best and judged to be the best. So bid strong. It's a great car. Hey, Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold by Richmond Auctions on October 24th and 25th, 2025. Something very special in this bunch is this 1957 Ford Custom 300 F-Code Supercharged. Don't call it a Fairlane. This is a Custom 300, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the Ford full-size line for 1957. But it's a lot less and it's also a lot more because it's the F-Code Supercharged engine under that hood. Keep in mind the Custom 300 two-door sedan, which we see here, very basic car. Minimal chrome trim around the drip rails. I mean, even the sides, basic car, no chrome trim at all, unlike a Fairlane. And inside, a bench seat interior with very basic fabric interior, rubber floor mats front and rear, all here present and accounted for. And of course, the all-important F-Code in the VIN says, yes, born a factory supercharged 312 V8 with 300 horsepower, 3-speed manual with overdrive, and has the 370 rear axle ratio for good acceleration and good cruising, depending on what you're doing. Now, the word is, this car was used down in Alabama for moonshining. It's verified by Milton Robson, who was the fellow who had this car restored, and Milton went to get this car from the fellow who was selling it, and it was absolutely used for moonshining down in Alabama for at least a couple of years. These were also very popular in NASCAR racing, oval tracks, dirt track racing as well, up against the 1957 Chevy fuel injection engines, which are this engine's nemesis. Speaking of the engine, let's open the hood and have a peek at it. And again, a very crisp restoration, right down to the rubber floor mats inside. And the hood latches right here. And kind of a cool thing, for the first time, Ford hoods from the 300 up to the Thunderbird opened from the front, instead of the traditional lift from the front. So that's kind of a cool touch, whether you're on the racetrack or the highway. So that's how you open the hood. But under that hood is the mighty 312 cubic inch supercharged Ford V8. Once again, 300 horse right there. And again, basically built to go NASCAR racing. And about 250 or so of these cars were built, so the records say, enough to legalize it for NASCAR racing against, again, the Chevy fuel injection cars, the Black Widows, etc. So anyway, nice restoration, just beautifully done. It has manual steering, manual brakes, of course, extra wide wheels all the way around. You might call it basically a raw material for a NASCAR race car back in the day. So it's a very, very rare and very special car. It's a rare situation where less is so much more when you're talking about a supercharged 57 Custom 300 Ford. Bid accordingly. It's a rare car. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be auctioned by Richmond auctioneers on October 24th and 25th of 2025 in its entirety. A lot of great cars, and let's have a look now at a 1957 Ford Thunderbird, but not just any Thunderbird. This is a special order double S interior and exterior paint combination car, not available from the factory, special ordered stuff by somebody who really cared for his wife or whoever, one of a kind perhaps. And beyond that, it's a dual quad car, 270 horsepower. The 312 has two 4-barrel carburetors on its aluminum intake manifold, unique to the 312 E-Code engine package, which is what we have here. And let's take a look at that big dual quad 312 and open the hood and see what we find. For 1957, Ford's Y-block pushrod engine was in its 4th year of production, replacing the flathead which Ford relied on since 1932. So really it brought Ford into the modern performance era. But this one is really about performance. This is the D-Code dual quad 312. What does dual quad mean? Well, it means there's two 4-barrel carburetors underneath that big air cleaner right there, and aluminum intake manifold specific to the D-Code dual quad cars. The only thing harder than this would be an F-Code supercharged Thunderbird with 300 horse, but this has 270, which is plenty of horsepower to get down the road. And special things about this car, really 1957, third and final year for the Baby Bird, which was made 55, 6, and 7. And they all have this cool forward hinged hood here, which lifts like that. And basically a very exotic touch, similar to the Corvette, frankly. Corvette was sort of the Thunderbird's biggest competitor, but these sold far better than Corvettes did for many years. I don't think Corvette ever really outsold Thunderbird, really in modern times, even now. So with that said, these are great examples of post-war optimism on wheels, if you will. Now, 57 was unique for a variety of reasons. Beyond the 312 dual quad engine, which was only available in 57, never in 56, 55, or 58. They didn't have them. But the crazy thing is, for 1958, Ford redesigned and reimagined these cars into 4-seaters, and they sold lots more of those than they did the 2-seaters like this here, so go figure. Of course, the 57 one-year quarter panels, long tail fins on these things, which is sort of Detroit styling fad of the 1950s, tail fins, and Thunderbird embraced them in big style. Of course, the trunk was enlarged because 56s, of course, had that external spare tire. 57 did not have it, so the styling was increased, and longer, lower, and wider was the motif in the 1950s. Inside this one, we see something cool, not an automatic, but rather a manual transmission. Let's open the door and scope it out. And inside this car, it doesn't only have the special order external paint, but the interior color here is also a special order item. And I dare say it's one of a handful, if maybe the only one, made in this color combination inside and out. But getting back to the Thunderbird's sporting nature, manual transmission, most of these cars came with an automatic, but this one here is the 3-speed manual. And I say there's nothing that connects the driver to the car like a clutch pedal and a stick shift, and this one has it. Again, dual quad 312 under the hood, very cool. But if you don't want to hear the engine, you have the Town & Country radio here, which is a primitive signal-seeking AM/FM radio right from the factory right here. Around town, when you maybe had a better signal from an FM radio station, you'd hit the town, and around the country, if you're out in the prairie or driving through the desert or whatever, it might hit the country part, and it would go into AM mode and or better pickup for lighter signals or weaker signals, I would say. So you always had a radio signal in this car with the Town & Country radio. Also, the engine turned applique here would reappear on Pontiac's Trans Am in the 1980s and 70s. And again, we saw it first here on the Thunderbird. And again, a beautiful example of a nicely restored car, all numbers matching. This one here has been pampered all of its life. Probably a one-of-a-kind paint and interior combination. A 3-speed manual dual quad Thunderbird, what's not to like? Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold on October 24th and 25th by auction by Richmond Auctions in its entirety. Just about 100 plus special interest cars. One of them, to my taste, is this 1957 Pontiac Bonneville. It's a special car in so many ways. Of course, the Pontiac Bonneville is well known in American history. This is the first iteration of the Bonneville nameplate, which would live on for years and years, but this is the first go-round, 1956, and all of these cars were convertibles, all had fuel injection, and let's dig in a little bit. The fuel injection unit on this is similar to the one used on Chevrolet Corvette and, of course, Chevy passenger cars, similar, made by Rochester Fuel Products, of General Motors, but very different, because this one fits the Pontiac 347 V8, but it's a mechanical fuel injection unit under that tin enclosure right there to prevent tinkerers from messing with it. But again, this car is from the Milton Robson collection, and Milton is a collector of the first order. He only buys the best of the best, and this is a great example of that. Again, the first year for the Bonneville, and fuel injection right here seen on all of them. And of 630 built in 1957, only 67 are known to exist. And this is perhaps one of the best of the breed. Of course, convertible top, power windows, and just a great example, finally restored, of a fuel-injected Pontiac Bonneville. The first go-around right here for the Bonneville nameplate, the legendary Bonneville. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold by Richmond Auctions on October 24th and 25th, 2025. And there's a bunch of really interesting vehicles which will be sold. One of them is this 1957 Thunderbird E-Code. Now, E-Code, of course, refers to the engine option under that beautiful hood, which is the 312 with two 4-barrel carburetors, 270 horsepower, and it's backed up by an automatic transmission. This car is loaded, but more importantly, this is one of two cars that are selling in this auction. It's got the S-Code Rosewood special order paint, and the other one in this auction is also an E-Code car with Rosewood paint. So that's two one-of-a-kind cars, two cars I should say, that will be selling here at this auction. This is one of those vehicles right here. I love the idea of the chrome wheels on this one here, nice upgrade. This one's fully restored by Amos Minter, which it comes with a full catalog with pictures showing the Amos Minter restoration process. Of course, Amos Minter, the go-to for baby bird restorations, and he's the guy to have these done. This was done there. Beautiful example of the breed. This one is a two-top car. It has the hard top here, which you can remove, and of course the soft top comes up if you want to go out if it's a bit rainy, colder. And again, 57 was the third and final year for the baby bird, 55, 6, and 7. But also new for 57 were the longer quarter panels with tail fins. And again, sales of Thunderbirds were strong, but really were dwarfed by 1958 when the four-seater came along and kind of made these not obsolete, but these are more sporty by far and desirable for that matter. But again, this is a one of two built car with the S-Code Rosewood paint. And again, it's an E-Code 312 dual quad car. Let's pop that hood and take a look at that mighty engine. And also new for 57 on all Fords was the hood opening from the back to the front versus from the front to the back. More safety here, just sleeker design. And let's pop this door over here, and just nicely restored. Once again, Amos Minter worked his magic inside and out on this car. Just a beautiful piece. And let's open that hood, and there it is. The mighty dual quad 312, 270 horsepower, about as potent as things got in a Thunderbird, short of the F-Code supercharged motor, which is not what this is, but that's okay. This is the E-Code, great engine. It's fully equipped, has power steering, power brakes, inside power windows, power seats, a lot of unusual options on this car. Also, this has a 240 kilometer per hour speedometer. So we have it was built for export delivery, not sure where, but it's an unusual speedometer, 240 kilometers per hour, or per hour. And great example of another one of Amos Minter's home run restoration. And again, there are two cars that are E-Codes with the rosewood paint in this very auction. Two of the cars. Go ahead and buy both of them. Have a good day. Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which on October 24th and 25th will be sold by Richmond Auctions. One and every vehicle, about 102 vehicles will be sold. And one of the rising shining stars in the bunch is this 1957 Corvette Airbox car. You might wonder what's an airbox. Well, basically for SCCA racing, these cars are equipped with heavy-duty brakes, finned drums in the front, and also airboxes that fed cooling air into the brake area and also through the rocker panels of the car toward the rear brake drums to make sure the brakes would stay a little less faded in a racing situation. And also, of course, the airbox fed air to the fuel-injected 283 under the hood, 290 horsepower. A lot of other details on these cars that are very unique and very specific. Let's dig in. Let's pop the hood first and have a look at that motor. Of course, the other thing too is the standard steel wheels were a little bit wider on these cars, and of course the little hubcaps look kind of boring and kind of plain, but that's how these things were. And there are 1,040 fuel-injected Corvettes in 57. Only 43 of them were airbox cars, and this is one of them. This is from the Milton Robson Collection, and Milton doesn't mess around. He buys the best of the best. It has been restored, but it's numbers matching from stem to stern. It's a rare bird. Let's pop the hood and see what we find under that hood. And by the way, it's NCRS Gold certified. We have the documents and sticker here in the window, so it's basically the best of the best as certified by the NCRS, and they know their stuff. Let's pop that hood and see what we find. And here it is, the mighty Ramjet 283 in its first year of manufacture and 290 horsepower, which was the first time that American V8 had 1 horsepower per cubic inch. And here it is right here. Now again, the airbox is not just about the brakes, the heavy brakes, race certified brakes. And again, this is here's the airbox right here, feeding air into the Rochester doghouse. And, you know, Chevrolet engineers, including Zora Arcus Duntov, who was one of the guys who oversaw the big brake package, he was there leading the charge and orchestrating the troops when these things were designed and executed. Another thing, too, is with the radio delete plate, there's no issue with radio ignition or ignition interference because there's no radio in the car, so the ignition wires are exposed, and that's correct stuff for an airbox or any fuel-injected car, or radio delete car, I should say, because the fiberglass body, of course, doesn't restrict the radio interference like a steel body would. But that's beside the point. But as we go down the side of the car, we'll see that this is a beautifully restored car, and just nice. The doors open and shut very beautifully. And of course, the Corvette had a standard tachometer located down low in the bottom of the instrument panel, but on the airbox cars, they had an external tach right here that went to 8,000 RPM, so that's correct and very rare, present and accounted for. And as you make her down, and this is also a two-top car. It does have the folding top, and of course, the fiberglass hard top on this, so you could take that on or take it off. I think for racing, you'd probably have to have this done legally, I'm not sure, but it has both tops are here and accounted for. And around the back of the car, and by the way, the airbox in the rocker panels, air enters here. Actually, there's a duct here that feeds the air down into this region here, goes into the rocker inside the car, and there's a little area right here which is kind of rectangular. It's a cutout, and the air blows toward the brake drums in the back again to resist fade from heat buildup. And in the trunk of the car, we find a lot of cool documents. And these are things that are provenance that prove the car's authenticity and its value. And it's been in a Corvette Fever magazine right on the cover. And here's the Top Flight Award from the NCRS, and also Gold Certified, also NCRS, and just a great example of the breed. And again, only 43 of these cars were built in 1957. It's anyone's guess how many are left, but this is probably the best one on the planet. Bid according to your collection needs this car. Hey, Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, 2025, Richmond Auctions will be selling just about 100 specialty and collector vehicles of many descriptions. One of them is this 1958 Chevy Impala convertible. Now, we know that 1958 was the first year for the Chevrolet Impala brand, which ran well into the 1980s, 90s, and even beyond. But again, 58 first year. Now, they came available with a 348 big block, but this is something even more special. This is a fuel-injected car. Yes, you could actually get the 283 fuel-injected small block in a Corvette or an Impala or other big Chevys as well, but very unusual to see a fuel injection logo under the hood or on the fender of a 58 Chevy Impala. So let's take a peek at what that fuel injection unit looks like. This is also a loaded car, wide whites, of course, spotlight on that side, but more important, let's get under the hood and look at this 283 horsepower or cubic inch fuel injection motor. And there she blows, the mighty Rochester mechanical fuel injection unit, first seen in 1957 on Corvettes and some passenger cars, but in 1958, here it is in this full-sized Impala. And again, the point of this is the aluminum plenum here provides a subtle ram effect, getting the fuel-air mixture into the engine. But here's the metering unit right here, the air filter here, and a bona fide fuel-injected 58 Impala convertible from the Milton Robson collection. Milton, of course, was is a very selective buyer and restorer, so this is a very correct car. Beautiful example of the breed. Has power brakes, power steering, which is good stuff, common to see on a big car like this. At the back, we see things like a spare tire, externally mounted spare tire, and beautifully rendered inside. Has two-tone upholstery. It has the signal-seeking radio, the Wonder Bar signal-seeking radio, which means basically that if you go into the country or wherever you might be, hit the Wonder Bar, and what it'll do is it'll come in on the strongest signal on the AM frequency and tune it in for you. You don't have to mess around with the knob and avert your eyes from the road. And at the back we have here, of course, the beautifully rendered convertible, plastic window, and of course this does have fender skirts in the trunk. They're not on it now, and it looks a little sporty without the fender skirts to my eye. Of course, Impala for the first time right here, the cross flags for Chevrolet's racing successes. And at the back, two of these are called antennas on cars. On insects, they're antennae. Now we know. But again, a beautiful example of a breed right here, going to be sold on October 24th or 25th by Richmond Auctions in person and a little bit online. So be sure to bid accordingly. It's a great car. Hey, I'm Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which on October 24th and 25th will be sold at auction by Richmond Auctions in its entirety, about 102 very special vehicles, one of which is this 1959 Edsel Corsair convertible. Now, we know the Edsel was kind of a flop. Ford miscalculated the market, trying to shoot between Olds and Pontiac, but actually kind of shot themselves in the foot pricing these cars between Ford and Mercury. The Edsel was sort of a strange car that never really found its mark. Again, 59 was the second year for the Edsel, and the convertible models, out of 47,396 Edsels, only 1,343 were convertibles, one of which is right here. It is restored, but it's a beautifully loaded car, correctly presented, right down to the dual rear mirrors right here. Of course, the two-tone body paint, and even the rims and the hubcaps are matched to the two-tone effect on the car. It's a really eye-catching, very appealing looking car. Even the interior is done up in green and white to again match the vehicle. And it's a correct restoration. It's basically a factory correct appearance in every way. Nothing custom, nothing hot rodded. It's very pure. Under the hood, let's take a peek at what we have here. You might expect to see a Ford V8. Well, not so fast. These have something called the MEL, the Mercury Edsel Lincoln engine family, which is kind of unto itself, not quite the same as a Ford V8. And unlike the Fords of this year, where the hood would open like this, the Edsel opens from the front, hinged at the back. And of course, the iconic Edsel horseshoe radiator grille assembly. And here it is, the mighty 410 cubic inch Edsel V8, also used in Lincoln engine or vehicles at this point in time. And a lot of power here. Factory air conditioning and a convertible, always a rare and desirable combination. There's the AC unit right there, factory installed. Power brakes, power steering. This one is loaded. And under the hood is correctly painted and detailed, just as it would have been when it left the factory at, I think, Wixom, Michigan is where these were assembled, I think. And again, this one has power windows, power seats, power everything. And it's just a great example of how 1959 was the next to last year for the Edsel. One of Ford's flops, but any car museum needs to have an Edsel in it. So bid strong. It's a very rare car, 1,343 made. That's it. Hey, I'm Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, where on October 24th and 25th, Richmond Auctions will be selling all of these vehicles, about 102 cars, including vehicles like this, 1959 Ford Galaxy hardtop. This is a very special car because it has 17,700 miles. It truly is an unrestored survivor, all original with the original window sticker, the build sheet, etc., fully loaded. Power steering, power brakes, power windows, and this one here, and beyond that, it has the Police Interceptor 352 under the hood. And speaking of the hood, from 1957 onward for several years, one of the Ford's party tricks was this. Go in here, you pull this handle, hood release, and then, instead of being like most cars where the hood opens from the back, these have a forward hinged hood, and right here, exposing the extra cost 352 Thunderbird Special in the Interceptor V8. Beautifully restored vehicle here, and again, 17,700 actual miles on this car. Fully loaded. The interior is beautiful. The original upholstery and carpeting all present and accounted for. And just a beautiful, I won't say restoration, it's not been restored. And again, they're only original once. This is absolutely a one-of-a-kind opportunity to buy a 1959 Galaxy hardtop in pretty much as delivered condition. Bid strong. Hey, Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold by Richmond Auctions on October 24th and 25th of 2025. A two-day binge of buying vehicles and top-notch vehicles like this one here. It's a 1949 Mercury Woody. Of course, Ford made Woody wagons as well. Mercury was a little more upscale, very similar in many features, really. But the thing with the Woody is that they had a steel nose, and under that wood is a steel structure. It's not structural. With that said, the wooden panels are made of maple and or mahogany. These panels here are maple, and of course these are made of mahogany, and they're attached to the steel underframe by fasteners. But inside, a beautiful example of post-war optimism and styling. 1949 was the first year for the Woody station wagon, 4950-51, for this version of hybrid steel and wood wagons. Before this, they did make wood wagons. Ford did in 1930s, etc. But with that said, this is a steel and wood hybrid. Again, 4950-51, the first year for the breed. A nice accessory sun visor here made of steel. In 1949, first year for the revolutionary Ford and Mercury body designs, which were very different from the previous examples with pontoon fenders. These are more of an envelope style, so really a groundbreaking vehicle on many fronts. Let's pop the hood. Now the internal release is here. Let's pull that. This has a 3-speed manual, and there is an overdrive switch under here, so it does have overdrive for open road driving with minimal RPMs. Let's pop that beautiful hood. Beautiful chrome trim here, gold anodized Mercury logo right there, and underneath the hood is the mighty flathead Ford. But with that said, while Ford used a 239 cubic inch wood or V8, Mercury had a 255, a little bit bigger and a little more power, but again, beautifully restored. And this vehicle actually won a 1992 Antique Automobile Club of America first place award. So it's been judged to be the best of the best. It's a beautiful example of the breed. Nicely done grille, all of this mint, beautiful looking stuff. And around the back, of course, it has an external spare tire, as all Woodies did, because there's no room inside for a spare tire, so it's mounted on the back. A very tasteful, classy example in tuxedo black, and just a beautiful contrast with the natural wood tones of the body itself. Bid accordingly. Hey, Steve Magnante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold on October 24th and 25th by Richmond Auctions. All vehicles will be sold, including this 1969 Olds Hurst Olds. With that said, it's not a 442, it's a Hurst Olds based on the Cutlass platform. And what makes it a Hurst Olds? Well, the emblems, of course, here on the fenders, and of course the fiberglass hood scoop on top of the steel hood, the two-tone white and gold paint seen on all of these cars. And with that said, it's kind of a rule bender. Why is that? Well, throughout the 1960s, GM had a corporate policy where no mid-size car could have a bigger than 400 cubic inch engine. Well, starting in 68 and 69, Olds bent the rule, putting 455s in these cars. And GM management apparently didn't notice, but again, they were not meant to be done, but Hurst and Oldsmobile made these things happen. 390 horsepower versus 345 or whatever it was on the base 400 cubic inch 442 engine. But again, this is not a 442, it's a Hurst Olds, very different creature. The wheels on these things are specific to these, made by Motor Wheel, and again, beautiful argent centers, chrome hoops, and just a beautiful restoration of a really sweet car. Let's open the hood and see what that rule-bending 455 looks like in person. And of course, this box right here is functional. We'll get to that as we open the hood and learn more. And on the underside of that scooped hood, we see right here, Oldsmobile, the fellows at Hurst Performance actually cut a square hole into the steel hood, which then mates to the top of this open element air cleaner right here. And that door right there is vacuum operated at wide open throttle. It pops open to allow cool air to go into the carburetor and allow this 455 to make 390 horsepower. This one is loaded as they all were. They were all automatics, maybe 1 or 2 4-speed cars, but this is not one of those. It's an automatic, turbo 400, great transmission, rugged. And of course, the 455 in the Hurst Olds was painted red, as we see right here, whereas lesser 442s would have had a turquoise or a bluish colored engine. So we see it correctly presented. Of course, the chrome valve covers, also part of the Hurst Olds package, and cast iron intake and exhaust manifolds. But again, bunch of torque, 500 foot-pounds of torque and 390 horsepower. This is a tire fryer of the first order. Something I call this a senior muscle car, an executive muscle car, if you will, classy then and now. Let's go around to the inside of the car and see what we can find there. And as I mentioned, these were all automatic transmission cars, but what a shifter this has. You got to remember that Hurst was known for its 4-speed shifts, handles, and linkages. So inside of these automatic transmission, it's a thing called the his/hers shifter. It's a dual gate shifter, and you can shift it manually or go over here. So this is the dual gate his/hers shifter made by Hurst and installed at the factory in these Hurst Olds as a promotional tool for the car and Hurst Industries. And of course, bucket seats, of course, you have to have that. The center console is abbreviated. This long length center console was replaced by this unit here. A very rare piece if you need to find one, very special item. And again, 390 horsepower under the hood, turbo 400 onto the transmission tunnel. And we go to the back of the car, yet more Hurst Olds goodies. And before I open the deck lid, notice how the gold paint in the center of the car runs down the hood, the roof, and the trunk lid right here, and that was factory applied at Hurst. The black pinstriping was done by hand on each one of these cars. And attention to detail abounds, and also little details like this, die-cast Hurst Olds logos right here on the front fenders, and also here on the deck lid. Also another detail that's kind of cool is the megaphone tips seen right here. And again, this is not a 442, it's an Olds Cutlass Hurst Olds. So let's pop the trunk, and here it is. It's very tidy, very pristine, correct. The Zolatone paint finish on all horizontal and vertical surfaces. A Superstock 2 spare wheel and tire right here. And inside, kind of a cool thing, here's a build manual, a restoration manual right here with the Hurst Olds logo right there. This was installed or added by a subsequent owner. This comes with the car to the high bidder, obviously, and inside of here, all the information on this car, 500 miles since restoration, and newly rebuilt motor, under 500 miles on the engine. The block, the heads, the intake, all these things are correct to the car. And these are bits of provenance which go a long way toward your purchase and any future purchases which confirm the car's provenance to what it is. Here's Oldsmobile delivery receipts right here from 1968 into the 69 model year. And just a great example of documentation, bringing the car to its full state of value and appreciation. So that's the story of the 1969 Hurst Olds, and bid accordingly. It's a beautiful piece. Hey, I'm Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold on October 24th and 25th, 2025 by Richmond Auctions. And one of the more interesting Fords is this 1961 Ford Galaxy Sunliner convertible. Now, you may not think it's much more than maybe grandma's go-to-church car because it's black, it's very austere, no mag wheels, nothing like that. But it's very much a sleeper. This is actually a Z-Code 390 triple two-barrel carbureted car with 401 horsepower. Very exciting car. 1962 would finally bring Ford's external badging, brag tags, 390, 406, etc., 427 later on. But again, no big brag tags on these things until you open the hood, which we'll do in just a second. In the meantime, let's look inside. And again, beautifully restored outside and inside. Bench seat interior, 3-speed manual with overdrive. And this is the Z-Code, heavy-duty suspension, heavy-duty brakes, etc. And again, the 3-speed manual was as good as it got. 4-speed wouldn't arrive in Fordland until 1962, so the 3-speed with the overdrive was plenty enough to get this car down the road or down the highway. Z-Code being the engine that's under the hood. Let's open that now. Take a peek. Of course, the Ford 390 arrived in 1960 with a single 4-barrel carburetor, but could also be had with upgrades like this. The Z-Code 3 2-barrel carburetor with the aluminum intake, Ford's first use of an aluminum intake manifold on a post-war V8 engine package. And here we have it right here. And there it is, 3 Holley 2-barrel carburetors, streamlined cast iron exhaust manifolds, and again, 401 horsepower. And perfectly restored and presented under the hood. Beautiful underpaint, under hood paint. Inner fenders are correctly presented in gloss black. Radiator is beautiful. Everything is crisp and pristine. The expansion tank is properly rendered right there where it should be. Dual point distributor. Solid lifters on these engines here. They're very special high performance engines right from the dealership to your driveway. So it's a very special car. Z-Code 3-speed overdrive convertible. Not many of these were built, and fewer remain, with their original wheels, which, by the way, are special. These are Kelsey Hayes wheels, and these are always gone. They're a very thin stamped wheel right there. It's a flat stamping, if you will. Doesn't have the flange of the more common wheels used on lesser Fords. So it's a very special car with all the right stuff from front to back. Bid accordingly. Hey, I'm Steve Mignante here in Bogart, Georgia at the Tony Townley Collection, which will be sold by Richmond Auctions on October 24th and 25th, 2025. And this is a very notable car here, 1961 Ford Galaxy Starliner. Not a convertible, this is the graceful fastback vehicle. Second year of production, 1960, first year for the Starliner fastback. Beautiful design. And this one here is very special because under the hood is the Z-Code 390 with 3 2-barrel Holley carburetors and 401 horsepower. And at this point in time, 1961, Ford wasn't bragging about the engine on the outside of the car. 62 brought 390, 406, logos right there, but in 61 these were truly sleepers. Of course, this one is rendered in beautiful red, Ford color right here, right down to the wheels. And by the way, the Z-Code cars came with special brakes, suspension, and even these wheels. These are very unusual rims. The spider, the center part here that welds into the hoop, has a unique contour to the 4 cooling slots. So that's unique to the Z-Code cars. And that was part of the package right here. Also used in Shelby Mustangs and 65, similar package, a similar stamping. But anyway, this one's a 3-speed overdrive car. And the wheels on this are very correct. The presentation, great restoration right down to the lucite fender emblems right here on top, right there. And let's take a peek at that Z-Code 390 triple carbureted engine with 401 horsepower. Let's take a peek right here. And there it is, a thing of beauty. The great thing is on a Ford like this, the 5th spot of the VIN shows you the engine. Z-Code says this motor right here. Solid lifters, big valve heads, and the aluminum intake manifold, 3 2-barrel Hollies, as I mentioned before. Manual brakes, manual steering, less is more with a car like this. And just a great restoration on a very unusual and uncommon Ford. Beautiful example of the breed. And the beauty of this car too is the roof line. It has a fastback curve right through here. And of course, be the Starliner, some space age little touches right here, but a big glass right there, very fastback, aerodynamic car. These are very popular on NASCAR or super speedways, and it's an example of a really clean one, bid strong.